Welcome to China in Focus. I'm Tiffany Meyer. Our top story, a rapid death rate and 100% lethal to humanized mice. Chinese scientists are experimenting with a mutant strain of COVID-19. The study shared last week from Beijing. Mapping the deadly COVID-19 virus while the world remained in the dark. A new investigation reviving questions about what Beijing knew during the pandemic's crucial early days. 2 million fewer people in 2023, a record decline as China's population fell for a second year, coinciding with the COVID-19 pandemic. And America's deadly fentanyl crisis, plus China's role in it, this time highlighted by Secretary of State Antony Blinken at the annual World Economic Forum in Davos. Hear more on what he's saying. Chinese scientists are testing a new mutant of COVID-19 virus strain. How deadly is it? So far, all the mice that have been infected died in just 8 days, though it remains unclear how this virus would affect humans. The virus attacked their brains, which were engineered to mimic human genetic makeup. The strain GXP2V infected the lungs, bones, eyes, tracheas, and brains of the mice. They quickly lost weight and were eventually killed by the brain infection. Their eyes turned completely white before they died. Authors of the study work for a university in Beijing. They underscored the risk researching this virus poses toward infecting humans. Researchers say GXP2V virus similar to a strain of virus that causes COVID-19. A former professor of medicine at Stanford posted the research on X, writing, "This madness must be stopped before it's too late." The CCP virus, which causes COVID-19, hit China in 2020. It later spread around the world, taking over 1 million lives on U.S. soil. Now, the world is still in the dark about where the virus came from. Debates remain over whether it came from an animal or a lab leak. What's more, new information is out on Beijing's pandemic cover-up. When Chinese officials said the virus outbreak in Wuhan was an unknown pneumonia, information about the virus was already available in China. This is according to a report from the Wall Street Journal. A Chinese researcher uploaded an almost complete sequence of the virus's structure to a U.S.-run database in December 2019. Virus sequencing is key to deciphering a strain. Beijing only shared that information with the World Health Organization 2 weeks later. This 2-week window could have helped the world better respond to the pandemic. Next, we zoom in on the public health concerns inside China. The country's top health authority says China could see an uptick in COVID-19 infections later this month, and that the JN1 variant would likely be the dominant strain. The same virus strain is causing over 60% of COVID-19 cases in the U.S. Let's dive in.
Residents in different parts of China told NTD that they're seeing more deaths around them as COVID-19 continues spreading, who've distorted their voices to protect their identities.
About 5 or 6 in my village have died from COVID-19. They're seniors. Those that are younger have cold symptoms. Children get a fever.
A man in central China said many died from COVID-19 in his area during the pandemic, including his parents. Recently, he's been seeing more deaths, and those between 30 and 50 years old.
I think COVID-19 caused their deaths, but authorities are covering it up and saying it's just the flu. We're now living in lies.
Another person in northern Jilin said he heard about seniors passing away due to strokes.
A huge demographic shift in one of the world's most populous countries. Official statistics reveal a historic decline in China's population in 2023, with over 2 million fewer people. What's happening? Let's take a look.
What's caused the rapid descent of the Chinese population? To begin, many people died when the CCP virus first surged in the country. China's population extended an historic decline in 2023. Deaths rose after Beijing ended strict pandemic curbs, while births continued to fall. A figure worth noting, some main mobile carriers in China reported at least 21 million users lost in total at the beginning of 2020. Experts and social media users were quick to suggest a link between the rare industry-wide slump in subscribers and the COVID-19 death toll. That issue compounded by Beijing's cover-up of virus deaths. Zooming in, an official statement said the number of cremations in Beijing province had jumped by 73% in the first quarter of last year. Many believe that number is still below the true figure, as the Chinese regime does not classify deaths caused by COVID-19 the same way other countries do. Beyond health concerns, China's birth rate is in free fall. Political pressures and the high costs of raising children are leading more Chinese women to avoid becoming mothers. Based on China's official data, the number of babies being born now is lower than during the post-World War II era, even though that time spurred China's worst economic depression. Looking forward, reports say the major demographic downturn could have profound long-term effects on the economy's growth potential. Demographer Zhu Yun at the University of Michigan said fertility decline is often very difficult to reverse. Looking at China's neighbors, Japan and South Korea share similar concerns: low fertility rate and aging populations.
Secretary of State Antony Blinken speaking at the World Economic Forum Wednesday. He's highlighting the deadly impact of the opioid crisis on the United States.
The number one killer of Americans 18 to 49 is fentanyl, synthetic opioid. Not car accidents, not guns, not cancer, a synthetic opioid, fentanyl. A year ago, this fentanyl that we seized, not the totality of what's out there, that we seized, was enough to kill every single American citizen.
Blinken said in 1 year, the U.S. seizes enough of the drug to kill every single American citizen, calling it a monumental problem. He added that fentanyl used to come straight from China to Mexico and then into the U.S. But now Chinese producers have changed their approach and instead are shipping the ingredients used to make fentanyl to Mexico. Democratic elections in Taiwan sparking a decision among some mainland Chinese, drawing a line in the sand against the Chinese Communist regime. More mainland Chinese citizens are joining a grassroots movement to quit the Chinese Communist Party and its affiliated entities online. Here's the message from Changchen Mei, posted at toidang.org. The website functions as an online service run by the New York-based Global Toidang Center to renounce the CCP. Chang wrote, "I am deeply pleased to see that Taiwan has elected its own president and has not allowed the CCP's proxies to succeed." Taiwanese voters elected a China hawk president over the weekend, sending a strong counter-message to Beijing's intimidation. Here's what another user, Zhu Chang, wrote. Following Taiwan's successful democratic election, the CCP's cultural propaganda has turned into a clown show. I am no longer brainwashed and blinded. I shall see the evil CCP perish with corruption.
CCP controls elections in China, but they don't in Taiwan, even though they tried to influence it.
After the Taiwan election, we can see that the people on the mainland have compared this democratic government with the authoritarian government, which actually makes them hate the CCP's dictatorial tyranny even more, so they quit the party one after another.
Different than the Pledge of Allegiance in the United States, the CCP makes Chinese citizens take an oath to the Communist Party. The movement to quit the CCP began in 2004. Since then, more than 400 million Chinese have walked away from the party. China claims its 2023 GDP reached 5.2% Tuesday and says it's ready for more foreign investments. The announcement comes alongside China's real estate crisis, historic low export and import data, and declining domestic consumption data from last year. How should we read this message? Experts have voiced doubts after reviewing China's GDP data and say Beijing's claim may be trying to attract foreign investments. On Tuesday, Miles Yu told Radio Free Asia that confidence in China's economy and the credibility of the Chinese Communist Party has disappeared around the world. He was the chief China policy advisor under former President Trump. He described the new GDP figures as fundamentally unbelievable. He also pointed out that the numbers promoted by the CCP always appear positive, even during the most challenging times. What's more, the data cannot be independently verified, as Beijing doesn't allow foreign assessment companies to conduct investigations in China. On top of that, China has a record of fabricating official data. Back in 2017, the sum of GDP data released by China's local branches of government under the CCP significantly exceeded the data published by the Central Communist Party. The then governor of Liaoning province also openly admitted that its GDP figures were inflated by 23% compared to the year before. At the same time, the major port city of Tianjin admitted that it had raised its 2016 GDP data by nearly half its original number. And in 2001, a U.S. economic historian found that China's GDP data significantly contradicted its market reality. He pointed out that China's energy consumption had decreased by 5%, inflation dropped over 2%, and unemployment remained largely unchanged. Whereas Beijing claimed that China's GDP had a growth rate over 34%. Next, we'd like to take a moment to share some of your thoughts on our show, commenting on retired General Robert Spalding's insight into the results of Taiwan's election, and marketing professor Frank Xie's take on Beijing's 5.2% GDP growth claim for 2023. Shine On 83 wrote, "I really liked both guests you had. This was a very informative video." Don't forget to tell us what you think of today's show. Thanks for watching. That's all for today's China in Focus on YouTube. We're now sharing a shortened version of our program here after being demonetized for more than 2 years. If you'd like to support us, consider donating. Find us at donorbox.org/China-in-focus or subscribe to our partner platform, Epic TV, where you can watch our full episodes. Here's what to look out for in our second half. What's at stake for China as Houthis' attack continue in the Red Sea? Having stayed tight-lipped about the Israel-Hamas war, Beijing is now speaking out. Top nuclear envoys from Japan and South Korea meeting amid rising tensions on the Korean peninsula. This after the North reportedly fired yet another hypersonic missile. And a dance performance with the message, ultimately the good will win. Find out why audience members in Berkeley, California are saying they'd come back to see it again the next day. More on that after the break here on China in Focus. Thanks for watching China in Focus. I'm Tiffany Meyer. See you tomorrow.